Again, very happy to be here. So, when we talk about data analytics, let me talk about a few of the projects that I have done in the course of my career. Um, okay, so let me start with what I do right now. So, right now, I am an entrepreneur and I'm the founder of AI Phonic Labs, which has a website called machinelearninginterview.com. So, it's a platform to help people prepare for data science interviews. So we actually work on many interesting problems here in terms of uh, ML modeling and analytics. So let me go over like a couple of them. So one thing that we do is we build tools to help people prepare for interviews. So we have a platform for that. And one of the things we try to do there is to help people get a real interview like experience by putting them through mock interviews. Now, uh, to do a mock interview, you need an expert, right? But it's really hard to find enough experts to actually interview all the people who want to have an interview because there are many people who want an interview and the number of experts and getting their time is really hard. So we are building a tool to help automate mock interviews. So why is this hard? Because if you think of how an interview goes, you ask a question and then someone answers something. Let's say it's an interview bot, right? Someone answers something, and it becomes extremely hard to figure out, what the context of what they said. So there are multiple things here. One is we need to evaluate whether that answer makes sense or not, right? And can you actually grade that answer? The next is what is the most meaningful thing to ask next, right, to drive that conversation and add value to that person. So this is a very interesting problem and something that we are still working on, right? So that's an interesting challenge that we're working on right now. So I want to talk about now a few of the things that we worked on, that I worked on in the past in the various roles that I worked at various companies. So let me talk about a problem that I worked on at Amazon. And this is very close to me because it's a problem I myself face. When we want to buy something online, like apparel, it's always a problem to pick the right size. And since I do a lot of shopping online, I always found it very hard to figure out what size of clothes or shoes to buy. And one of the problems I worked on at Amazon was to figure out for a particular customer, if you come to the website and shop, what is the exact size of a particular product that you should buy. So for example, you're looking at shoes and you're looking at like Nike shoes. So what size of that particular model of Nike shoes should I recommend for you? So that's a very uh, challenging problem to solve because of multiple reasons. So if we look at the data that we have once again for this problem, the kind of data that we have is the data that what customers bought earlier, which is the transaction data. And we also have data like the return data, which is, okay, did they buy something and return it, saying that it is large or small? That's also useful because if you bought a particular shoe and returned it saying it's large, then your size is probably smaller than the size of the shoe. So the problem is this data is very noisy. So for instance, you can actually go and buy a shoe for yourself and your daughter maybe, and they could be different sizes, right? And you might not put the right return code. So the challenges here are many. So the data is also large because there are a lot of customers and products, in a company like Amazon. But even though it's large, it's very sparse. What we mean by this is the number of people so if I take a particular product, the number of transactions for that product is usually not very high. And if I take a particular customer, the number of purchases of shoes that they have done, or a particular apparel item that they have done is not very high. So how do I, though there's a lot of data, it's very sparse. So these are some interesting challenges here. And we actually came up with this and rolled it out at Amazon. So that's another problem. Um, Another interesting use case that I worked on is smart order at Kino. So this is an NLP problem. So the kind of data that we have, so the challenge here is think of a distributor who gets a lot of emails of order requests. So somebody sends an email to this distributor saying that they want a particular uh, X number of some kind of tiles for so and so purpose by so and so date and so on, right? So it becomes very challenging to figure out, or this particular so there's usually a team that actually sits and looks at all these emails in order to understand what is going, so what the customer said, and actually understand what product the customer is talking about. Because when someone writes free text, it's very difficult to figure out what is the exact item they're talking about, and usually it requires manual intervention. So one thing that we try to do is build a product to solve this problem, which is automatically look at emails and figure out what products a particular email is talking about. And this is challenging because people don't write things in a very unique way. So I can interchange words in the product name. The product name is not, people don't always put like a dictionary name when they write an email, right? And figuring out and linking these references from the email to an actual database to figure out what product it is, and also what quantity do they want. So basically, you can talk about multiple products and multiple quantities in a single email, and it becomes very hard to figure out, okay, which quantity corresponds to which product and so on. So parsing that email and understanding the products and quantities, that's another very interesting problem that we try to solve. um, I'll talk about one last problem that I worked on. This is in the space of systems. It's a systems domain problem, and the reason I'm talking about it is because it's a different kind of a domain. So one problem that I worked on is to try to make your computer faster by figuring out what to put in the cache. And this is in collaboration with a company called NetApp, which is a storage company, one of the biggest storage companies out there, right? So they wanted to figure out how to make their storage servers faster. So for instance, if you're watching a Disney movie, your movie is probably coming from some kind of storage server somewhere where, Disney has multiple locations where it puts this movie, and it probably comes from the closest location to you. So, and it's residing in some storage server from where it's coming. So how do we figure out that you're watching, suppose you're watching The Lion King. How do we figure out that you're watching The Lion King and put that whole Lion King into the cache on that server so that you watch the movie without any interruption, right? This is a problem that we solved. And once again, in this particular problem, this was very unique because the if you think of caching, right? Caching is a very time critical operation. So there was not a lot of work in terms of, I'm a machine learning person, and there was not a lot of work in using sophisticated machine learning algorithms for caching, because it's such a sensitive and time critical operations that it's really hard to get something done in those millisecond, microsecond granularity. But what we did there was, we said, instead of worrying about the millisecond, microsecond granularity, we will try to figure out from the access patterns based on what you watched and your what memories locations you access. We look at your access patterns, figure out what you're watching. So basically, if it's like if it's Lion King, we figure out, oh, this access pattern corresponds to Lion King. So, and we figure out what access pattern it is and load all the corresponding data automatically into cache. And when we are looking at this, we are not looking at that microsecond granularity, but we are looking at, can we find this access pattern across hours together and load it into cache. So this was another project at NetApp. So these are some of the projects I worked on. So, and there are many others, of course. So coming to, the opportunities in data analytics, there are many, many opportunities in data analytics. Right from I think being a data engineer, or like an analyst, to a data scientist, to a software developer who's supporting a data science pipeline. So I'm hoping to discuss more about this in the panel that follows.
Yes, please. Thank you, Lavanya. And we hand over the session topic to Jayanti Anand.
Hi, this is Jayanti. Happy to be here, and I hope I'm audible. So I come with about 25 years of experience from all spectrum of analytics. Started as a market researcher, building strategy for all the brands, almost all brands in India. Was instrumental in launching Wrigley's and dairy products for Britannia, Citibank to launch, Henkel to launch here, and so on. So then I moved on to data science, business intelligence, because that was emerging one in early 2000. And so I moved on there. And after that, I started setting up large analytics COEs for various global companies across four different continents, like in Europe, UK, Ireland, and then Budapest, Mexico, in China, Shanghai, and Dalian, and so on. So it is very different because, like, I haven't started with the data science, and data science, I would say it's a new algorithms, and it is a different brand name for the old wine. So for us, analytics is there in our blood, in everybody's blood. We analyze the data, we analyze the information that we get it in different form, shape, in terms of what kind of a decisions that we take, and that's what we do in entire career of mine in a different way. So what we called as data warehousing today, because of the velocity of the data and the volume of the data, we have called it as a big data, because you need to have the data at a near real time or a real time across the globe, and it has to be accessible in a cost effective way. And hence there is a cloud environment which is making data available to everybody. And you have the big data technologies, which is basically collaborating all the data from different sources of information. It can be SAP, it can be Excel, it can be in Word, it can be in any other ERP system or in the databases system. Irrespective of that, you are compiling everything on the fly and put it into the storage, and that is there in the cloud. And then you're trying to access on the fly again, either doing the reporting in terms of what's happening to my brand, where do I stay, and what's the brand share or the wallet share that is being spent on my brand, what are the competitors doing, how am I performing, what kind of a strategy that I have to do it where I am failing very badly, and why am I failing. So all your 5 W's and hows and those kind of questions, we used to do the reporting alone, right? And now it has gone back saying that, okay, I know what's happening. Having understood what's happening, how am I going to take the steps? What should I do next? Suppose if I have invested $1 million, and if I need to make about 5% or a 10%, what strategy should I be following? What kind of a promotion should I be working on? What kind of a customer should I be targeting on? What product should I be selling right now, depending upon the seasonality? These are all the things that we used to you do it using the statistics analytics. Now we have gone beyond, where we have to continuously get the data, at the same time apply the algorithms, where the algorithm library can also be there, and then you are working on it. And when I say data, now you have the structured data and unstructured data. Like Lavanya said, there can be a text also, and how will you convert the text into a numerical form? So you have different NLP, ML algorithms and AI algorithms. And companies like Databricks today are making it much more possible in terms of creating a data catalog, which will talk to you about what each data field is about, and creating a data governance and the data quality on the fly in terms of checking the quality of the data and inputting it into the database. And you have an algorithm of all the library of all the algorithms, where you can create a self-service. Even if somebody doesn't know how to do the analytics, type the question in English. Our NLP algorithm will convert that into a analytical problem, pull the data from the database and extract the algorithm, apply on it, test 4 5 algorithms and get the best significant algorithm and do it. And the problems that we solve are enormous. It can be like, a product development, a new product development, to category management, to a fraud analytics in insurance and banking sector, to, like, if I am a product manager in PNG and I have never gone into Uganda or Ghana and into a different sector, can I go and launch, and what kind of a products will work? what kind of an ethnicity. So if you just spell it out, that can even give you an analytical results. And that's where the industry is going towards. And because the industry has expanded in terms of decision making, and especially with the COVID, you need to make much more faster decisions. And analytics is the only way in the digital era. And when your data is exploding, analytics is the only way where you can give your decision making in a much more authentic way or a scientific way, and basically stand by that decision also. So given that scenario, what kind of roles are available? It depends upon your attitude. Suppose you are a very data crunching kind of a personality, data engineering, data analyst, where you understand what data is talking about and name it and put it in the right no algorithm, write the codes for it and so on. Or if you are a business analyst who knows exactly in a supply chain how the logistics work, know how the warehousing is working, what kind of a product should be there, and based on the demand, out of stock should not happen. And if the out of stock happens, what is the loss that happens? So you can be a business analyst who can do an MBA and then specialize in some kind of a domain, whether it is banking, finance, retail, CPG, e-commerce, whatever is the industry that you are inclined towards. Get the domain, get the know some amount of business knowledge, and get into the business analytics. If you are a visualization and very creative personality, then get into a BI visualization or advanced visualization where Power BI, Tableau kind of a thing will talk about what's happening at various places, and also create a UI UX kind of an environment which will give you a very nice way of looking at the data, which is very, very user friendly or a customer friendly kind of a thing, and design the reporting itself. So visualization is one of the area where we look at it. The other area is like know what Lavanya said, AI, NLP kind of a thing, where you are building models to solve certain business problem and then put it there either in the library or a standalone points-based solutions. So the amount of profiles or the no people required across different spectrum of data analytics, from data to decision making, is like multiple. We have about, in our organization, we have about 178 skills that we look for across the globe to recruit. So that's a short introduction about what we do and know where we see analytics heading towards. And I feel like without analytics, this world cannot exist, because we need to take a faster, better decision making. Sometimes it is a different new names for the old thing, but we are building blocks, for a better future through analytics. Back to Vaishali.
Thank you, Jayanti. Thank you so much. I now pass on this session to Dr. Jones.
Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. So I guess I'm here to talk about how you get to those wonderful opportunities that our first two panelists talked about. How do you become the Sherlock Holmes of data? How do you learn how to investigate and learn the things that you need to learn to come up with an answer that's good for business? So I am the program director for the Masters in Business Analytics and Information Systems at University of South Florida. Let me see if I'm advancing. So first of all, do you really want to get into this field? I went out to the Bureau of Labor Statistics for 2019 and looked at what a management analyst would make and what the career opportunities are for this type of person. Now there's lots and lots and lots of different job titles that you can get being a business analyst, but this is one of them, and it's probably the on the low end of the pay scale. So I took this one as a starting entry point for people who would graduate with a master's in business analytics and information systems. Median pay starts about $85,000. You can do this with a bachelor's degree. Of course, that salary is going to go up if you end up with a master's degree. Work experience, 5 years on the job training. It's not really something that you get experience with on the job training to get the job. Lots of jobs out there, and it is growing much faster than average. This 11% job outlook, I think, is low in comparison to what it could be. So the other thing you want to know, almost the first thing out of people's mouths, so if I get this degree, where am I going to go? What kind of jobs am I going to get? And what kind of pay am I going to get? So some of the recent job placements that we've had, there's a huge number. People are going to Amazon. It's really broad spectrum. Almost every industry, everyone needs analysts. As the first two panelists told you, you've got to understand the data in order to make business decisions. It's not let me guess and I have a hunch about where things are going in the future. It's now show me the data. Make a decision, yes, but show me the data on how you came up with that decision. You can't just have intuition anymore. Show me the data. And all of these companies, these are examples of some of the places that we've been placed at, our students have been placed at recently, need that. So what are our particular placements? Our median salary is $80,000. Our average salary is $85,000. Again, in this COVID era, we had a low salary of $57,000, and that's really low for us on placement, and a maximum salary of $170,000. This is right out of your master's degree. Even in the midst of COVID, we placed 99% of our students. We have one student that is now volunteering in our department because of one reason or the other. They couldn't get in, couldn't get a job this year, probably mostly because of COVID. So where are we located? The University of South Florida is located here in the southwest or Midwest Florida. We have 3 campuses, one in Tampa, one in St. Petersburg, and one Sarasota, Manatee, and we have about 50,000 students with 180 degree programs. We are an AACSB accredited university. Look for accreditation when you're looking for a university. In the College of Business, Muma College of Business, we have about 8,500 undergraduate students, 1,200 graduate and doctoral students. We offer the whole range of different degrees. We have accounting, finance, management, all these different normal business degrees. And again, why is our business analytics housed in a College of Business? Because we are making decisions for businesses based on data, and that's why. There are other, you get a computer science degree that has an analytics focus to it. You can get an information systems degree with a analytics focus to it. Since this is the area I'm at, this is the one I'm going to talk to you about. Some of our university points of pride, our program is ranked number 47th in the world for business analytics. Now, this is important to note in a minute because we are a great value as far as what it costs to get this degree from this highly ranked program. Our faculty are well renowned for the research they do. Research is, you get, in order to research to be important, it needs to be published. And so that's how you figure out whether or not you've got good faculty. We're 32nd in the world for ranking as far as premier journals. A bunch of other things that we could talk about, but the one I want to point out to you is we are one of the best value colleges for 2020. In other words, we give you a great bang for your buck. Again, in our program, we have a business analytics and information systems master's and undergraduate program. We also house the management department. So what this is saying is that our breadth of classes and opportunities are great. We have masters and undergraduate and management. We also have an information assurance and cybersecurity undergraduate program. We have a PhD program. This offers a lot of courses choices for you. So how do you get in? What do we look for when we're enrolling students? For the master's program, typically we look for students that have some sort of professional experience in development and data analysts, something that they can build upon once they get here for the master's program. We also, again, have world-renowned academics. Some of the biggest names in business analytics are professors here at our department or our school. One of the things that we have a great deal of emphasis on is student success. And there's an adage that says, you can't get a job without experience, and you can't get experience without a job. And that is one of the things that we try and overcome here in a couple of ways. Number one, we've just instituted a required internship. In order to graduate, you must have an internship. And we have opportunities other than typical internships. These things are called practice center projects. Practice center projects, we're in Tampa. Our main campus is in Tampa, and Tampa is a huge area for service industries, healthcare, insurance, finance, et cetera. So we have a lot of opportunities with our local industries to put together semester-long projects that you will actually work with a company, within a team, with a group of with a faculty supervisor on a particular project over the semester. This gives you opportunity to go to an organization, immerse yourself into a environment or a business environment that's not academic. So you get that business experience, and yet you're being supervised by a faculty member. So it's a really interesting, and it's a paid position as well. It's a very interesting opportunity that we provide to our students. We also have a dedicated student success specialist in our school who herself is a foreign national. So I know where most of our audience today is from India. She understands the world that you would be entering coming to the United States and trying to assimilate yourself into a university in the United States, and then subsequently get a job here if that's what you want to do. So she understands that process, and it works routinely with you from the day you arrive. Actually, before you arrive, she interacts with you until after you graduate. Making things like mock interviews that Lavinia was talking about earlier, doing the things that make your soft skills good enough to impress somebody to give you an opportunity to prove yourself. If you can't get in the door, you're certainly not going to have the opportunity to prove yourself. And the interview, the resume, all that stuff is important. So we have a dedicated student success specialist that will help you with that. We also offer boot camps. You can't learn everything in a 16-week, 12-week, 8-week course. There are some skills that lend themselves to a weekend boot camp. We offer those type of things with experts in the field to allow you to do that. So here's the end game. Yes, I need this education. How do I afford it? So we, again, this goes to the point where we are one of the best value universities. For an out-of-state university, it costs you approximately $33,000 to attend. That's including housing, books, supplies, other expenses, which if you think back at the base salary I showed you a few minutes ago, is recoverable in less than a year. So this is something to keep in mind. So admission standards, again, usually 2 years to 5 years of strong technical experience of some sort. We do look at test. So let me back up there. Usually when I show this information, people say, oh, wait, maybe I have a part of it, but not all of it. So we look at the full package. So maybe you don't have 2 years of strong technical skills, but you have a huge, very high GRE score, or you have great undergraduate grades from a great university. We look at the whole package. We don't just look at one item and say, oh, you don't meet this particular item, so therefore you're not considered. So again, we look at it holistically. We look at the entire package, but this is the typical admittee has years of strong technical experience, GRE score of 308 or above. And again, you can request a waiver of that. I know it's hard to get GREs right now during COVID, and strong undergraduate scores. So what is our curriculum? Our core curriculum is 13 credits. So what we're trying to do here with our curriculum is give you a basic understanding of information systems. And we then offer you, once you have that basic understanding of information systems, we give you a basic understanding of analytics, and then you can specialize in one area or another. And I'll show you some of our elective courses that allow you to specialize. But we make sure you understand systems analysis. We make sure you understand how database works. We make sure you understand what distributed systems are, and that the basics of analytics. And then from there, some typical choices of electives are data warehousing, data science programming, big data. You can do data visualization. You can do cybersecurity type stuff like information security and risk management and business continuity, disaster recovery. Then we have a lot of statistical programming type courses. We're offering a FinTech concentration now. So you could take FinTech and payment technology. So these are all things that, and these are just a few of some select topics that I picked out, but then you program what you want as far as an area of expertise for yourself. And I say this is how the University of South Florida and our program does this. This is typical of a lot of business analytics programs across the United States. And again, one of the things that we require is a internship for graduation. We do that for a couple of reasons. And we've just instituted this recently, and it was a result of the COVID issue. According to international standards and the requirements that we have to follow for international students, if an internship is not a requirement of your program, you have to have been in the university in person for 2 semesters before you can take an internship. We include this as a requirement so that you can start your internship after your first semester. So it just allows you to start your internship a little earlier as an international student. And some of the internships mirror some of the places that we have sent our students. A lot of our internships turn into full-time positions. But some of the interesting ones, we had some internships at Tesla, Adobe, Amazon, of course, is Tech Data. All these places offer internships. The point here is that internships aren't necessarily just local. We place students on internships across the nation. So that is what I wanted to chat with you about. And I think that was my role to kind of let you know what you need to do to become one of these people. And I will stop sharing my screen and turn it back over.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for this wonderful insight as to how to get into the master's course. But now that we have all the panelists, and Jayanti said that there are 178 profiles and 178 different details, which one can look when we talk about data analysis. Also, as per Lavanya, when we talk about data analysis, we do talk about big data, we talk about artificial intelligence, we talk about NLP. There are so many questions, right? So I would like to ask this question to all the panelists as to, is it so very confusing, or what an individual should possess the basic knowledge to enter into this domain of data analysis or big data or artificial intelligence or machine learning or natural language processing, all these words which we have been hearing? The basic question is, what are the basic eligibility or the basic fundamentals which an individual should have to enter into these domains? And I can keep it open for all 3 of you one by one, because Lavanya comes with a product overview and Jayanti would talk about how a service industry would look at it, and probably you can share a role in terms of academia. So over to you, Doctor, and then we can start with other 2.
Do you want me to start?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, it is very confusing. My take on it is this. You need a basic of understanding. You can't do data analytics unless you understand the systems that data resides in and how to gather the data out of the systems. So that's why those core courses that I showed you are important. You have to understand the system in order and understand how to delve into the system to get the information out. Then it's up to you what interests you. Janthi had a discussion about if you like visualization and you're artistic, go that way. Just figure out what's interesting to you. And also the big thing is, where do you want to work? If you explore a company that you really want to work for, what are their needs? What do they look for in somebody they want to hire? Explore the company you want to work for and decide if it's data mining that they need or if it's visualization. Figure out what they need and take the courses that groom you to that point.
Jayanti,
I
can we
mean,
have your view? Because
yeah,
you
sure.
said it's 178 and that number itself is so confusing. What role should I play and what are the basic eligibility? I again ask. I mean, are we only talking about only a computer science students can do data analysis or big data or can enter into that domain? What are the basic? Because that's a misnomer in the market, you know. People feel that it's a computer science subject.
Yeah, it is definitely not a computer science subject alone. Suppose if I have done a BSc mathematics and statistics, my bent of mind is towards solving the business problem or writing an algorithm. Or if I have done an econometrics or economics, then again my bent of mind is towards solving the business problem. So I would suggest people who are problem solvers and who are like very critical thinking people, irrespective of their degree, they need to be trained in data science or analytics, any of the courses in analytics, because they are already a problem solver in some spectrum. An econometrician will be a very focused BFSI kind of a mindset, which is what I mean is like banking, financial services, insurance kind of a sector, because all the case studies that they study during their graduation itself will be towards how am I going to forecast for the economic downturn that is happening right now, or if COVID has brought down the the entire market or the share market down, when will it recover? When will the economy recover? Right? So there is a forecasting kind of a mindset which is already built in their education system itself, and naturally they will go towards it, and it is good for them to go towards it so that they'll be able to solve the business problem and look at it from a different alternative solutions also. Like Dr. Jones said, there are various courses in the data science spectrum for solving the business problem and different kinds of an algorithm that can be worked out. In any spectrum of data analytics, whether you are taking a data engineering, data management, BI visualization, or analytics or cognitive, you need to have a very clear domain, because if you don't have the domain, you won't understand what the data it means for you. Like for example, pricing, if you take, there is a pricing in retail CPG, there is a pricing in manufacturing, there is a pricing that you will do in banking, financial sector, and insurance, there is a pricing in energy and utilities. But the way you analyze the pricing has got various components to it. Energy and utilities has got a macroeconomics, how many tons of no petrol or any kind of a crude oil is available, how the different countries are reacting to it. Depending upon that, you manage your pricing. For your product, just general consumer products or a white goods, depending upon the seasonality, you price the goods. For an insurance, during COVID, you will give a different kind of a pricing. And for a family health plan, you will give a different kind of a pricing. For an individual health plan, you will give a different kind of a pricing. So if you take just one spectrum, if you don't understand how that is working, then it will be very difficult for you to solve the problem. So the first is your mindset. Is it just a collection of the data that the person is interested in? Once you collect the data, are you just placing it or categorizing it and reporting that? Is that your interest? Or analyzing and trying to solve the problem scientifically and say why what you are saying will come true? Like if I say the stock will do after 3 months by 45% increase and invest in this particular stock, you need to have an authentication of giving that decision to the reader, right, or to the user. So that is the first step where you want to place yourself. It doesn't have to be as computer science alone. Then you need to fix your domain. Which domain do you want to go into? Once you get specialized into it, then you can be a domain agnostic, but domain plays a very, very key role into that. The third thing is, once you decide where your liking is it BI or data engineering, data management, or information science like security kind of a thing, or your analytics, there are various techniques and technology that you need to build it. Like for example, if I take data management, right, it is just managing the data. So you need to get into talent or data integration. There are various no tools available right now. If you are into the data management, building the data, are you going to do it using the Python or PySpark or no any of the big data, any other techniques that you want to get into? Or if you are in the visualization, do you want to get into Power BI, Microsoft kind of a thing, or you want to get into no Tableau, MicroStrategy kind of a thing, or if you want to be even in analytics, right? Which kind of a coding are you going to get into it? And what kind of a specialization are you going to get into it? So that you need to decide. Once you decide, based on that, the skill sets vary. And that skill set is about like 178 is what we have categorized right now. It can continuously grow also. In a service organization, you work with a legacy client as well as a modern client, or a Uber and Amazons and Googles of the client who are continuously working on innovative things, right? So the depending upon the skill set, the requirement will vary, but that doesn't matter. The first thing is they need to fix where their interest is, and then the domain, and then the techniques or the technology that they need to get in. And engineering helps people in the data engineering or data management or information security kind of a mindset. Analytics, you don't have to have any kind of an engineering background. Even with mathematics, statistics, econometrics, or an MBA also will help you to get into the analytics. BI and visualization, you need to be creative. Again, like you can be in any spectrum of industry. I know doctors who have done pediatric oncology have gotten into the visualization and advanced NLP kind of solutions. But they have specialized in healthcare vertical. So like that, it depends upon your interest and aspiration where you want to see yourself.
Thank you, Jayanti, for an elaborative answer. Lavanya, I have seen your profile and I've seen that after a lot of jobs, you have been a woman entrepreneur and you are into now product development. So Lavanya, how do you think this data analysis domain with all these different profiles, and as what rightly mentioned by Jayanti, that all what we need is a problem solving approach. How easy it would be for any woman to restart her career into this domain?
Cool. Let me answer this question. So, at machinelearninginterview.com, I've actually worked with a lot of people who have tried to transition their career and take up a data science role. So, what I see is that it really, again, like, Jayanti talked about and Dr. Jones talked about, it really depends on what your existing skills are, what your inclination and ability to learn some new skills is, right? So if different roles have different requirements, and again there is the question of domain that also came in that Jayanti rightly pointed out. So let me first talk about the domain. So I found that for it depends on where you are in your career also. So if you're in an early stage in your career, the domain is not so important. The skills are more or less fungible. But if you are in a later stage in your career, it might be easier to transition in the same domain, right? Um, that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is, let's talk about what skills you already have. Again, Jayanti has summarized very nicely a lot of things that I'm going to say. So if you are in if you have worked in a product company before, or so if you have worked as some kind of manager before, like a project manager before, or if you have worked in a um, in a specific domain for a long time and understand the domain well, right? So you can if you are able to think about it from uh, the business decision making perspective and be able to contribute to make business decisions, then you might be suitable for, like a business analyst role, right? So the kind of skills that you need to pick up, so again, like Jayanti said, right, it really depends. You don't need to have a particular degree always to start with, so degrees always help. So let me put it this way. So if you have a degree from, university in a particular skill, right, it helps. For example, if you want to become a data scientist and you have like a machine learning degree, it helps. But it is not a requirement as well, right? So even without that, you can actually get a job if you have the skills, because a lot of companies also look out for people who do not necessarily have, like, a college degree but are ready to transition. So then it boils down to what skills you need to learn, right? So if you're looking for like a business analyst kind of a role, then you need to understand the process of looking at data and driving business decisions, right? So if you are in a role that where you have seen people do this, it really helps, right? So it really, it's so when people come and ask me what role should I apply for, it really depends individual to individual, because they all come from different backgrounds, right? Again, like Jayanti said, if you're looking at like a data scientist role, then definitely if you have programming background, it helps. If not, you have to learn programming, right? Again, if you have a statistics background, it helps. If not, you have to learn statistics. And things are learnable. I have seen a lot of people who did not have these skills and have completely learned them and have got good jobs from them. And again, like if you're interested in, like, more of understanding data, getting insights and visualization of data, then you can go for, like, that kind of a role, data analyst role, where you look at, like, Power BI, maybe even Excel or SQL kind of things to make dashboards and nice visualization. So that's definitely another path. It depends on your inclination, where you are, and what you want to do.
Thank you, Lavanya. Thank you so much. Now, this again, one last question, which I would like to keep it open to all of you, is in terms of how many tools and technologies, or how much of hands-on on tools, or rather on computer or programming, do I need to have if I want to start my career in data analysis, or merely Excel understanding, Excel sheet understanding is good enough? And this can be open for any of you.
I guess I could speak to what our students are seeing when they apply for jobs. So it's important. So yes, understanding of Excel is important. It depends on the job you apply for. If you're applying for a data scientist job, you better understand programming, you better understand algorithms, you better understand the higher aspects of data science. And what we have found that you can find different positions out there. It's just depending, you have to explore that your skill set meets or exceeds the requirements of the position. You can go to all these job sites out there and you can look at the job descriptions. There's tons of different job descriptions of different types of business analyst roles. And you can get some that aren't highly technical, and you can get some that are extremely technical. You just have to make sure your skill set matches the job requirements.
So I would say that Excel helps to do some kind of a quick calculations, but that's not going to help you in today's digital era, because digital era Without data, we can't do analytics. And the data is not going to be in Excel, because gone are those days we are working with limited amount of data. Today, we are working with both structured and unstructured from social media, and within social media itself, you have many handles like Twitter, Facebook, and whatever. And plus, you are also doing a secondary data from just a research also. And if you have to integrate all those things, Excel is not a good medium. You need to have a database in some form, shape, or big data environment. And if you had to pull that data, it's not going to be limited only with the Excel's capability. However, when you are testing some kind of a what if scenario, you can create an Excel based program and then check it with a consolidated data or a smaller set of a grouped data. So Excel is good to have, but will it help you to succeed in your today's digital era in data science or data management? It's doubtful.
Right. Let me just add that completely agree with what everyone here has said. Excel is, a good skill to have, but there are actually jobs that you can do which require you to mostly use Excel. To be honest, I've seen people go to those jobs, right, at the lower end of it. But if you want to broaden your options, it makes sense to know at least a few more tools in terms of analytics, right? Um, at least the family of jobs that we're talking about, which require Excel, right? So if you have more tools to play around with data and visualize, you will broaden the scope of what you can do, and even within the same organization, you can actually make more impact, right? So it's always recommended to learn more tools, like maybe Power BI or Tableau, a few more tools that you can actually use on data. If you're talking about the kind of analytics family that where Excel comes to play. Of course, there are other places where you want to play with big data, you want to be a data engineer, then different skills are required, of course.
Thank you so much, Lavanya. Thank you so much to add. And all good things have to come to an end. So we are at 6 o'clock. And but before we end, I would like to introduce Women in Big Data as a chapter for all our participants. So I am Ekta. I'm Dr. Ekta Mehul. I'm a co-director for a chapter called Women in Big Data. And we wanted to initiate, and we started this chapter in India to ensure that a lot of women can make up their career into this domain of big data and data analysis. Under this chapter was basically initiated by Intel in 2015 in US, and today this chapter has its own place in 32 countries of the world. And we have started this in India to motivate the women to start their career. So all those people who are attending this session and want to start their career or look into these career aspects as to how they can restart their career or skill themselves or upskill themselves in this domain of data analysis and big data, please refer to our website www.womeninbigdataindia.com. And thank you. I again thank all three of you to spare your valuable time and to share the details. This video, we have done the recording for this video, and it will be available on our YouTube channel as well as our website. And I think Vaishali, you can take it over.
Yes, Ekta, definitely we will be sharing this recording to everyone. And thank you everyone for being here with us. It was really a useful information, and we look forward to connecting with you all once again in future.
Yes,
Thank you for having us.
I think it was really, really important for a lot of people. I'm sure there would be a lot of summarization, and probably some of the questions would have been cleared as to what is data analysis and what all different career options are available, as well as how it is being looked upon, not only in India, but also in US, and what can be an option to get into US. I think University of South Florida can definitely be one of the options to get into this domain. So thank you, all of you. Thank you, Dr. Jones. Thank you, Jayanti, for sparing your valuable time. And thank you, Lavanya. Best of luck for your new product coming up in the market.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.